Hi all, welcome to this session on GS-1 History Answer Writing. I have divided GS-1 answer writing into three portions, that is History, Geography and Indian Society. So this is the first part of the session, that is History Answer Writing. I am Mudit Jain. I am IRS of 2018 batch. Before joining IRS, I was probationer in Indian Police Service for a couple of batches. Apart from that, I am author of Decode Ethics book that has contribution by 25 officers. And as you can see on screen, this is my upcoming book that is Decode History on World History Preparation for UPSC and State PCS. It has contribution by five or six officers, and the idea behind bringing this book is that concise, exam-oriented and structured material for world history is not available in market. Aspirants are basically studying ready-made coaching materials which are not that good, which are not that helpful, and they are not structured and concise. So to answer only one or two or three questions that are asked every year in world history, if you are reading 400 odd pages, then it won't serve any purpose. This book will be concise. It will be around 170 pages only in 5.5, 8.5 Kindle size. So I think it is a very concise material which you guys can refer. Also, before proceeding with the session, I would like to tell that my notes of history and my answer copies are uploaded on my blog, that is muditjainblog.wordpress.com. You can join my Telegram channel, that is Decode Civils Group. There are 10,000 plus members in this channel right now, and they all get free interactive guidance from me on daily basis. Also, you can visit my YouTube channel, that is Muditjain UPSC, for other exam related strategies. So let us get to the next slide. This is again some information about my book. As you can see, my ethics book is already doing well with 4.2 above rating, and this is my upcoming book. Next slide also details information regarding book, that what all it covers. It has previous year solved papers as well as theories. So you can refer these book, and according to me, these are one-stop solution. Now let us begin with the session of the day, that is history answer writing. So you must be aware that history has two or three portions. First is ancient art and culture. Then there is modern history, world history, and post-independence. So overall, there are four or five subtopics of history. Now, one thing that is important is that questions can be direct or they can be applied. So by direct question, I mean to say that couple of times it has happened that questions are asked on 1857 revolt, and couple of times industrial revolution questions have been asked. But then there are applied questions as well, like what is the difference in approaches of Gandhiji and Ambedkar, or what is the difference between what would have been the difference had Gandhiji not been there. So such sort of questions are being asked. These are applied questions, but either way, the most important thing that one should remember is that it is a question of GS and not history optional. So if you are from history optional and still you are scoring less in GS1, then this might be one of the reasons that your answer is not of GS but of optional. Unintentionally, what happens is that you write too much of depth instead of multiple dimensions. This makes answer good for optional but not for GS. I, being from geography optional, had to fine tune my geography answer writing skills a lot for GS. So again, I'm mentioning that the answer must be as it is for a GS question and not optional. Now, three uh, types of markers have been asked till date in history. That is a 10 marker question, a 12.5 marker, or a 15 marker. Now 10 marker has to be answered in 150 words, a 12.5 marker question in 200, and 15 marker question in 250 words. You get 2 pages to answer a 10 marker, 2.5 pages to answer 12.5 marker, and 3 pages to answer a 15 marker question. So a 10 marker question has to be answered in 7 minutes. Likewise, a 12.5 marker in 9 minutes and a 15 marker question in 11 minutes. Adhere to these timelines, else you will fall behind. You won't be able to complete paper, or you won't be able to justify the later questions. You will answer them in rush. It happens with everyone. It is quite normal. It happened with me that 10 minutes are left and I have still 2 or 3 questions left. But then uh, to complete paper, you do not justify the answer. You do not justify the question itself. So adhere to these timings from the beginning itself. Now, in the coming slides, I'll be discussing the template that I used, which helped me score 108 in 2014, 116 in 2015, and again 117 in 2017. So as you can see, my marks in GS1 have been quite consistent. So you can blindly trust this template, which I'll be telling you. You can apply it in your answers, and let's hope for the best that you will score well as well. So coming to the next slide. Now, how to start a question, how to start an answer. Now, it is written on question paper that do not underline or do not write anything on the question paper. But trust me, it is very unlikely of you to be able to handle a question by not marking on the question paper. So every time I wrote 4 means I qualified them all, I used to mark on question paper. Nobody stopped me, no invigilator stopped me ever, because it is impossible to handle tough questions, 4 5 liner questions that UPSC asks without underlining in the question paper. So as you read the question, underline the uh, subparts of question paper, identify the subparts. For example, consider this screen, whatever is written as a question. Now read the question becomes first subpart. Identify the subparts become the second question. So likewise, underline that this is the first subpart, this is the second subpart. Think of the headings. So what I'll be telling you in comment slide is that we'll write the answer in points and not para. First thing. Second thing, we'll uh, make separate headings for separate subparts. So everything must be served on a platter to examiner, and he need not search anything in your answer that have you addressed this subpart of question or not, have you addressed second part of question or not. So everything must be clear. So if this is heading 1, then there are points like 1 2 3. Then this is heading 2, there are points like 1 2 3. So everything is crystal clear to the examiner on the answer sheet itself. While reading the question itself, identify the key events associated with that particular question, the years of which the event belonged to, the leaders who belong to that event, uh, other facts and figures related to that question. Also, if you think that this particular question is from current affairs, then also identify the news background from where the question might have been asked. I'll be dealing with all this in coming slides, so do not get confused. I'll repeat for your benefit that while reading the question, identify subparts, think of the headings, think of the key events, associated years, leaders, facts, figures, and the news background. Coming to the next slide. Now, this is the basic format answer structure of GS1 history portion. So first thing first, this is common across the papers, be it GS or be it essay paper or be it optional, you have to write introduction. Without introduction, trust me, you will lose -1 or -2. you will at least lose 1 or 2 marks if you have not written introduction. So introduction is very important. Second thing, as I've already told in the previous video, write the news background. This again I have told you that you have to write events, facts, leaders, and year. Now, why do you need to write this? This is because, as you will see across this lecture series in Geography, Society, GS2, 3, and Ethics, I'll be telling something that is paper specific keywords, PSKs. So, this thing that is events, facts, leaders, years, figures, etc. This is the paper specific keywords for history. You cannot write other keywords for history as such. So these things are very important to provide X factor to your answer, to gain eye of examiner, to catch his eye, to catch his attention. Such technical things, no technical know-how is very important to write in your answer. Do not confuse yourself. Coachings might tell you that you do not need to write technical language or technical answer, but trust me, I have tried it again and again, as I have already told you in previous slides that I have scored very well in GS1. So you can blindly trust this approach. Headings, I have already told you. Points. Now uh, you must be writing answer in para, or you must have been told by someone or other to write answers in para. Forget this approach. Write answer in points. I'll detail this in the coming slides. Now, this is very important thing as far as history answers is concerned. That is before, the event, and after. Now, what is this? If event is the thing that is asked by UPSC in particular question. For example, there was a question on in world history about what were the approaches that were used to counter Great Economic Depression. So the Great Economic Depression is the event. Now, if you have read world history from Arjun Dev book or from any other source, you will be able to find only few lines on New Deal. New Deal was an instrument that was used by Roosevelt, I guess, to sort out issues of Great Depression. Now, in my notes as well, which I made out of that book, only 2 or 3 lines were written. Uh, those notes are uploaded on my blog. You can see there. So you do not have enough material to write in a 10 marker or a 12.5 marker question. In that case, start with Great Depression. That is uh, the events before Great Depression. That is World War One. Start with that. Then write about Great Depression or the answer body, that is New Deal, and if any other measures that you can recall there, write those. And then write what happened after Great Depression. Was New Deal successful, or did Great Depression actually last till World War II kicked in? So this is a method of before, event, and after, wherein you can manufacture points. This is particularly helpful for those questions which you do not know well. But then there are questions like on modern India or post independence, or questions on uh, art and culture which are not that tough. If the question is not tough, there you do not need to follow this approach because you are having points to write. But then if you do not have points, then you can very well use this approach. We'll deal with questions in the coming slides, so need not worry right now. Also, in points, try to link with current affairs. As I've already told you, this is a GS paper. Answers must look like GS. Even in history, I massively use current affairs. Now, I'll again tell you in the coming slides how to do that. Underline keywords or important lines, facts, figures, or leaders that you have mentioned in your answer. This will attract examiner. This will catch his eye. So this gives you chance of scoring extra 1 mark. If you were scoring 4 out of 10 in a question, but then you have underlined certain thing, and if the examiner likes that thing, it is very well possible that you will score 5 and not 4. So underline important keywords. Diagram. This is a very important thing. Everybody knows that diagrams are to be drawn, but then people hold themselves back, particularly in history, because they have not trained their mind well. That how can you draw a diagram in history question? But let me tell you, it is very much possible. It is very easy to draw diagrams even in history. Then conclusion, and conclusion also you have to link with current affairs. So I'll just repeat it again. Intro, then news background, facts and figures, write separate headings, answer in points. You can manufacture points if you do not have enough knowledge on particular question. Link them with current affairs, underline important points, figures, draw a diagram and conclude. So this is the basic format. Now I deal with each and every uh, format topic in detail. First, as I told, was introduction. So introduction must include news background and keywords related to a question. Keywords I've already told you means leader's name, year, or events basics. Also, there are questions where you can define something. Now, this is very much common in society questions. Like if there is a question on globalization, you can define globalization. If there is question on ocean currents in geography, define ocean currents. There is not much to define in history as such, but then there are opportunities to do so. Like in this question, which was asked in 2017, why did the moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation about their proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of the 19th century? This was asked in 2017. Now, UPSC has given you an opportunity to define moderates. So, why miss it? Define who were moderates, write the names of their leaders. Uh, you might be aware of the years in which they started and what were the basic ideologies. So this much must be covered in introduction of a static question. This is a static question. It has no link with current affairs as such. So write these important things in introduction. Coming to the next slide. Now, there are questions in history as well which are linked with current affairs. For example, there was a question in 2017 again, that is the women's question arose in modern India as part of 19th century social reform movement. What are the major issues and debates concerning women in that period? Now, you must be wondering how this is a question of current affairs. But if you have read current affairs well, if you have prepared history well, you must be aware that Women's Indian Association WIA was formed by Margaret sisters in 1917 or 1918. So while preparing that year, I was damn sure that 100 years of this event are completing, and UPSC loves to ask questions in history about topics which complete, say, 50 years or 75 years or 100 years or even 25 years. So always look for such topics and be prepared with them. So I was very much prepared. As soon as I saw this question, it struck to me that this question is asked by UPSC because WIA completed 100 years. One of the main objective of WIA was social reforms, reforms like voting rights to women, educational rights, etc. So in the news background of this question, mention that 100 years of WIA concluded recently. Now, this will tell the examiner that you are very well aware of the facts and figures associated with question. This will also tell him that you know that why is this particular question asked by UPSC. So you are basically going one step ahead of what UPSC is asking, what examiner expects out of you. You are giving the examiner something extra. And trust me, this will help you fetch +1, at least +1, because this makes a long lasting impression on examiner about your uh, technical know-how. So mention news background wherever possible. Now, introduction is done, keywords, initial facts, because news backgrounds are done. Now, I have already told that questions in history are like these are single liner questions, or these can be a three liner or four liner question where there are three or four sub parts in a particular question. So we will address every subpart separately. We'll make a separate heading for each and every subpart so that the examiner is clear that you have addressed the entire question holistically and you haven't missed even a single part, single subpart of question. So best way to tell the examiner that you have addressed the question well is making separate headings. Do not force the examiner to search the answer. The answer must appear itself. Examiner is getting paid to check your copies. He is not doing it for free. Now put yourself in place of an examiner. You are checking 100 copies in a day. You have already checked 50 copies, and then suddenly you are very tired. You are not getting too much interesting answers, and suddenly you get a copy where the presentation is very good, where there is separate headings, where there is diagram, facts and figures are written, everything is underlined properly. You will definitely get attracted to that answer, and you'll definitely give that answer more marks. So it is just addressing the psyche of the examiner and nothing else. So make different headings for different subparts. I've already told that answer should be written in points rather than paragraph. Now, what is the reason? What happens when you answer in paragraph is that you tend to digress from the question, digress from the issue. You forget about writing multiple dimensions. You tend to focus on single dimension, and answer appears to be that of optional rather than GS, because in GS the only important thing is dimensions. So to keep yourself on track, to write different dimensions, to not digress from the issue, to ensure that you have addressed each and every subpart, ensure that you write in points. Change your habit from today. If you are writing in paragraph, it is very easy to address the answer in points. It is no difficult thing. Change your habit. You can easily do so. You just need to practice one paper, and after that, if your mindset is such that you will write points, you will be able to write points. So it is not a difficult task. Now coming to another important aspect. According to me, 1 mark is equal to 1 point. So if it is a 10 marker or 12.5 marker or 15 marker question, you should write ideally, again I repeat, ideally, you should write 10, 12 or 15 points. It is not possible. It is not humanly possible to write 10 points in 7 minutes, 12 points in 9 minutes, 15 points in 11 minutes. I don't think even a robot can do for tough questions that are asked by UPSC. But then this is the ideal scenario. Why? Again, put yourself in shoes of examiner. There is a 10 marker question. You must be aware that it often does not happen that UPSC gives even 50% marks. That is 125 out of 250. It happens, but it is a rarity. This is very much acceptable. Otherwise, everybody would be scoring 500 marks in GS out of 1000 if UPSC was to give 50% marks. So, max that you are getting in ideal scenario is 5 out of 10. Now you have only written, say, 5 points for a 10 marker question. Me being examiner, I didn't like 2 of those points. Now I have only 3 points to rate you. How much do you think would you get if you have written only 3 quality points? So increase the number of points. Now say you wrote 8 points. Again, examiner say didn't like 2 points. Still he likes 6 points. So you are giving yourself more chance to score say 4 marks out of 10. Still you are not getting 5 out of 10. For 5 out of 10, you have to write 10 points in a 10 marker question. To get 6 marks in 12.5, you have to write 12 points. To get 7 plus marks in a 15 marker question, you have to write more points. It is everything about points at the end of the day. Trust me blindly on this. I have cracked mains every time I appeared in it. In 2014, my mains rank was All India 11th. In 2015, my GS score was 5th highest in entire India. So I take huge pride in my mains strategy and in my answer writing strategy. So points, I have cleared you that you have to write more and more points. But then it is history paper. As I told, this is ideal scenario. More than often, you will have to make mountain out of a molehill. Now, this is where that approach of before, event, and after comes into play. If you know something about the event, something what happened before the event, and something that happened after the event, you can easily make mountain out of that molehill. Trust me, uh, you already have seen my marks. I didn't know much about the Great Depression question. I didn't know much about Suez Canal question, but then I scored very well across the years. So this is the technique I have been using in history paper. Now points must be concise, 1 or 2 line for a point and not more than that. If you are writing 5 lines for a point, you simply cannot write 10 points. So points can be concise, 5 to 6 words even make a point. So uh, they can be crisp and short, but then idea is to write multiple dimensions and not focus on depth that is required in option. Coming to the next slide now. Okay, so here I have again detailed about the strategy of making up points, that is before, event and after. Uh, this I've already mentioned that more than often you will be required to make mountain out of molehill. Now, example I have given of this question. Why did moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation about their proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of the 19th century? Now, if you apply this approach, that is before, event, and after, what you can do is in before part, you will write why and how the moderates started. In the main body, you can write about moderates. That is, we have already discussed that you will define moderates, you will write basic facts and figures, their ideology, and then why did their political goals and ideology failed as such. And in the after part of it, you can write about the 20th century beginning. So this will cover not only the question that is asked, but also the border of it. Imagine this is the picture. This is the question that is asked by UPSC, and you are basically giving examiner this much. This is the border that you are giving. So using this approach, you are giving something extra to this to the examiner. So this is a very tried and tested approach. This will help you in making points. Again, another example is this is a question of 2017 mains. I clearly remember it because I wrote exam that year. How do you justify the view that level of excellence of Gupta numismatic art is not at all noticeable in later times? Now, in this particular question, all I knew was G for Gupta, G for gold coins. This is what I remembered. But then uh, I guess this was a 10 marker question. I filled entire 2 pages inch by inch and didn't leave even a single line. So how did I do that? Again, using the approach, first mention about the before. Before is, that is before Gupta. UPSC has not asked you, but then you have to make points. You cannot write a half page answer or 1 page answer and expect yourself to get 5 marks out of 10. If you are attempting a question, then attempt it holistically. Even if you don't know it, fill pages. There are marks for it. I think that filling pages, writing quantity carries marks. It is not all about quality, it is about quantity as well. So before numismatics, before Gupta, write about that. Then the main answer, and numismatics after Gupta, including current affairs. So in this question, as I'll tell you later in the diagram part, I drew coins of India available right now. That 1 rupee coin, 2 rupee coin, 5 rupee coin, and 10 rupee coin. I drew this. I had drawn this coins on paper. So you can use current affairs, you can use innovation, as much innovation as possible. Do not hold yourself back. Some of you must be laughing at this right now. How can you draw coins? But then trust me, uh, this is something that is a X factor. So not many do that. If you are checking 10 copies, trust me, 8 of those copies won't have a single diagram in history questions, but then the two aspirants who will draw diagram will definitely get +1 mark. So uh, now this is very important. In case you have enough knowledge of question, still using this approach of before even event and after will ensure that your answer is multidimensional. And at the end of the day, this is what is required in GS paper. Now, me and my roommate, who is now in IPS, one day we were discussing this, that I use this approach. He also started using this approach, and he also started scoring well in test series. So basically, it stuck to us later that perhaps this is what the examiner is wanting us to write. That is, we are covering a question holistically and not focusing on one dimension. So we are giving the examiner before as well and after as well, while other 8 or 9 aspirants must be focusing on this part only. So we are giving the examiner something extra. So you can get extra marks. You can try this approach in test and see yourself. Now coming to the next slide, making points with current affairs. Now this is a very innovative approach. Not many try this. So listen this very carefully. You can make use of current affairs in history questions, particularly in world history questions. So, for example, we have already discussed that Great Depression question in which many people wrote about New Deal. But then you can make point from current affairs that in 2007 depression, what did governments across the world used to come out of that depression? In this particular question on industrial revolution, that is, why did IR happen first in England, quality of life, and present day scenario in India, you can write or you can conclude with industrial revolution 4.0, which is often in news these days. It has been in news since 2016 or 15 or even before that. So use current affairs. Now, you might get a question, say, on Truman Doctrine. Why not write about Asia, Asia pivot of Obama while concluding the question. You can use current affairs, nobody is stopping you. So it is a very innovative approach. This will tell the examiner that your mind is open, that you are aware of the events related to world history that are still happening. Again, say Cold War. If a question on Cold War comes, which is very likely to happen this year, you have to write the Cold War between US and China that is taking place since 1 or 2 or 3 years. So this is very likely that you will get a question on Cold War. Do not stick to Soviet and US. Mention points from current affairs about the Cold War 2.0 between US and China. So this is a very innovative approach. You can try it out yourself. Now, coming to other important part, which I already told you, that is diagrams. According to me, one diagram is equal to plus 1 mark. If there are 10 diagrams in one GS paper, it means you have 40 diagrams across GS papers. It means plus 40. So you will see this fact again and again in all the 9 or 10 videos that you will be watching in this answer series. I'll keep highlighting this fact so that by the end of the course, it is ingrained in you. You do not forget, your mindset changes somehow, because I really want you people to draw diagrams. Everybody is aware that diagrams are to be drawn, but still people are not drawing them. I don't know why. Plus 40, I don't think I need to tell you what is the difference that plus 40 can make. Either you can be an IAS officer or you can be sitting in the prelims exam next year again, and you might fail prelims. So it is no guarantee that you will write mains again. So whenever you get chance to write mains, fully utilize it, grab it with both hands, draw diagrams, give yourself edge over others. So now what sort of diagrams can you draw in world history? This is a question, this is a diagram of industrial revolution. Industrial revolution question we have already seen in previous slides. This is the spread of industrial revolution. Now, if you have read industrial revolution from a good material, you will be aware that it started in Europe or in Britain, then spread to Europe and then to US. So in this diagram, you can see it started here in 1840s, then 50, and then it is spreading to eastern part of Europe. Also, you can depict US in this diagram, and later in 1870s and 80s, it spread to Japan as well. So you can depict that as well. It is all about mindset. Honestly, tell yourself, you cannot tell me in this video session, but you can tell yourself how many of you thought about drawing a diagram in the industrial revolution question in previous slides when you just saw that question. I don't think many of you could have realized that you can be as innovative as this. So you can draw world map. There is no need to draw the full map as such. As I've shown this in this figure, you can draw it in parts. Rather, I'll say you should draw in parts, not can, because what happens that when you draw entire map, it takes lot of time. There will be error. Examiner might get pissed off if he sees that particular portion of map is not correctly drawn. So it is very easy to draw map in parts. You can also draw Europe in one part, US in other part, Japan in other part. So this also increases the number of diagrams in your paper. This utilizes more space. You won't have to write more points. If the idea is to fill pages, you can fill it with diagrams as well. So draw maps in parts. Coming to the next type of diagram that you can draw is Indian map. Indian map can be easily drawn in modern history questions. it is very easy. You just have to train your mind. For example, if there is a question on non-cooperation movement, you can draw this particular map depicting the main centers of non-cooperation movement, like Amritsar in Punjab and other areas that are mentioned in this map. Again, there is no need to draw entire map. Just draw the part of map. You can draw uh, maps in parts, like part 1 North India, part 2 South India. You can depict western part, or if particular question eastern part is relevant, you can draw eastern part. So this is a very innovative way. People associate drawing maps particularly with geography, but then you can draw maps in history question as well. Now, this is a very easy approach, easy sort of diagram, that is hub and spoke diagram. Hub and spoke diagram, as you can see, this is a sample diagram from my book, upcoming book, Decode History. So this topic deals with ideals of enlightenment. So what you can do in paper, if you have say 10 points, write 6 points and draw diagram for rest of the 4. Also, what happens, I'll tell you in it here only. What happens is that people write 6 points, and then this and this point which is already written, they draw diagram, they draw those points in diagram as well. So it is no big deal. There can be repetition. uh, it is a very competitive environment. You have to write too many questions in too little time. So such things happen. There is no need to worry about that. But then try that the diagram depicts something new and there is no repetition of points. So hub and spoke model, this we will be using in upcoming lectures as well in GS2, GS3, ethics, etc. Now, this is, uh, I can say, my innovation. Uh, I literally use this to my advantage across my attempts in GS1. Chronological diagrams. History, as everybody knows, is all about chronology. So why not depict the chronology in form of a diagram? It is very simple. It is very easy. You just have to train your mind. Now, this particular diagram, again from my book, depicts chronology of French Revolution. So, in my book, there are about 50 diagrams. These are chronological diagrams, hub and spoke diagram, and tables and all. This particular diagram depicts the chronology of French Revolution. Like first, there was a call to rationalize taxation system, and then there was a assembly meeting in which these two bodies refused to accept the demand, and then the events like tennis court oath and prison break great fear took place, which led to declaration of rights of man and child. So, if a question comes on French Revolution that lists down main events of French Revolution, you have written 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just draw this diagram after that. 9 out of 10 people won't know that they can draw this diagram. They won't be drawing, but now you know. All you have to do is train your mind. There is no need of preparing these diagrams beforehand, because you know the events that happened during French Revolution or American Revolution or World War One, World War Two, Cold War. You just have to draw them in a form of chronological diagram. It is very easy. So coming to the next slide, tables. I've already told that there are n number of tables, about 47 or 50 tables in my book. So this table again depicts French Revolution. So what I have done here is that here there are names of leaders, and then here I have written the main role of leaders. So Louis XVI was the king at that time. Charles de Calonne was the Controller General of Finance. Likewise, there were other main characters like Napoleon. He was the Army General. So you can draw this particular table also in question of fringe division. It is very easy. You just have to present your theoretical knowledge in form of a diagram. Now, question specific diagrams. This I have already told you. Uh, I hope by now nobody is laughing at it, but then this can be easily drawn in paper. Uh, as I've written here, I drew present day coins in numismatic questions. There was a question on Tandav and Lasse in 2013. I used basic Nataraj like figure in that question. There was a question on Chola temples in 2013 or 14. I drew a similar sort of diagram depicting the main parts of temples like Shikhar or the Garbh Griha or Mandap, Gopuram, etc. So again speaking, 9 out of 10 people won't be drawing this. If you are that odd one out who is giving examiner something new, something attractive, you will be the odd one out to get +1 mark. And at the end of the day, even a single mark counts. Even a single mark counts for those who get same rank. Say you are uh, your score is 990. It happens in UPSC that two other people might have 990 score, but then 991. So there is a difference of 1 mark. Now he might get into IS, you might be in other service. So this is the difference that +1 mark can make. +1 mark has more relevance in pre, you can be in list or you can be out of it. But then it has huge importance in mains as well. So this is all about diagrams. Now coming on to the next slide, conclusion. I'll repeat the same lines again and again across the video series. That is, you will be doing yourself injustice, you will be losing all the edge over others, you will be wasting all your efforts till now. That is writing intro, keywords, news background, current affairs, points, headings, underlining, diagram, etc. If you are not writing conclusion, it is must. Conclusion is must. Even if you have two more questions to go and only 10 minutes are left, then too you have to write conclusion in your question, because writing conclusion won't give you extra marks. But then if you have not written conclusion, trust me, you will lose 1 or 2 marks. So do not make this grave error. It is matter of 1 or 2 lines only. 1 or 2 lines in that during that current situation takes hardly seconds. So just summarize the answer, summarize the question itself. Like if there is a in the question of Great Depression, you can write hence the governments across the world took steps as listed above. This will do. Nothing major is required of you. Just summarize your answer in 1 or 2 lines. Now, in GS2, GS3, you can use way forward approach. I don't think way forward approach is much relevant in history, but then if you can apply it in certain questions, go ahead with it. Nobody is stopping. So conclusion is very important. I'll keep repeating it across videos. Now presentation. I have already told about underlining and its importance. When you draw a diagram, try to draw a box around it. Like if you have drawn map of India, just draw this box around it. It looks good. Uh, you This is not necessary. This is not a panacea. This is just added uh, presentation skill. Like in five-star restaurant, when you go, you see that there is a lot of designing on plates. So this is just that designing. I don't think it carries extra mark. Just that it looks good. uh, Numbering diagrams, again, this I used to do. This you will see across the slides in the sample answers that I have attached later, that I label my diagrams as figure 1, figure 2, 3. Now the idea is that at the end of the paper, when the examiner sees figure 10, this is to tell the examiner that I have drawn 10 diagrams in this paper. You cannot give me less marks in this paper because I've taken extra effort. I've made extra effort. So this is just to hit the psychology of examiner, that see boss, I have given you 10 figures in this question. At least give me 100 marks. Don't give me 95. So this can happen that your marks straight away you get +5 at the end of the exam. So you can take this chance. Also, do not use colors. Now, this is important. If you have gone through my blog and if you are a geography aspirant, you would see in my answer copies that I have used crayon colors, pencil colors in my maps. But then uh, later I came to know that some examiners take it otherwise. So do not take that risk. Use only blue pen and black pen and no other pen. So you can draw the diagram with pen itself that you are using to write answers. There is no need of separate colors. So this is all about presentation. Now, uh, in the coming slides, I'll be discussing 4 questions. Now, uh, I advise you to be very attentive, because the strategies that we have discussed till now will apply those strategies live. So you can always pause, you can revisit the video and try to ingrain the strategies that I am telling you in these questions. So this was a question that was asked in mains 2019. Explain how the foundations of the modern world were laid by American and French Revolution. 15 marks, 250 words. So if you recall the first slide of answer strategy, answer structure, I told you to identify the subparts. Second was we'll write headings. We'll write intro where we will define, we'll write facts and figures. Fifth point was, like we have written intro, we have done with headings. We'll write answer in points. We'll underline, we'll draw a diagram, and we'll conclude. And in entire answer, we'll try to have keywords all the way in the entire answer. So this is the basic approach that we have to use in this question. Using this approach, in the intro, mention the leaders associated with American Revolution and French Revolution. If you have prepared world history well, you this is a cakewalk for you, because American and French revolutions are very famous topic. You simply cannot miss them during your preparation. Then mention the facts about these events, the years, like French Revolution was in 1789, if I'm not wrong. So mention the years related to these revolutions. If there is a news background associated with an event, mention that. I remember I have not given 2019 attempt, but then I was reading newspapers and French Revolution was in news in some of the newspapers. So it had completed 230 years from 1789 to 2019, 230 years. Now this does not have much relevance. Figure is not 200, 250 or 300. But then if you mention that of late French Revolution has completed 230 years, so it gives examiner uh, It tells the examiner that you have technical knowledge. So write this news background, identify the parts. Now I've mentioned that this question has three parts. I have used the technique that is before, then event, and then after. So before is world before revolution. Now, why I have mentioned world before revolution here? Because the question says, explain how foundations of modern world were laid by American and French Revolution. So you have to tell the world that existed before these revolutions. Otherwise, how you will prove that these revolutions helped in laying foundations of a modern world? So my strategy fits into this question directly. Mention world before revolutions, then mention the main answer body that is about the revolutions, and then the modern world after the revolution. So these two parts are the main answer body, which I hope everybody would write. But then this is a point which not everyone can think of. So this is something extra, and I think this is very much required also in this question. So there are three parts. I told you that we'll be making separate headings for separate parts. Subparts are three, so there are three headings. Intro, you are done with. You have defined American Revolution or French Revolution, or you can also define modern world as such. Uh, Points. So it is a 15 marker question. There are three subparts of a question. So one subpart is equal to 5 points each. So this way you can ensure that you are addressing each subpart of question equally. Of late, it has happened that UPSC has given marking scheme also for subparts in society questions like 5 plus 7.5. In that case, in part 1, you will write 5 points, and in second part, write 7 points. But then if UPSC has not given a marking scheme, you can divide marks equally among various subparts. So three parts means in every part you will write 5 points, then we'll draw a diagram and we'll complete. Now let us see a model answer for this question. This answer is from my book, Decode History, the upcoming book, which I hope will be out by the time this video is released. So you can check on Amazon right now because I am making these videos in advance. So by the time you're watching it, I hope it is already in market. The book right now is uh, in final stages. I have asked department for permission and I'm awaiting permission for same. So in this question, I have started with mentioning facts about American and French Revolution. I have mentioned the years and have not written much after that. You can write a little more about modern world. So I've written only this line that these were founding events that laid foundations of modern world. You can explain what is modern world as such, according to you. Now, I won't be discussing these points because these are theoretical. It has nothing to do with answer writing as such, answer writing strategy as such. If you have read American Revolution, this is very easy for you to write. Only thing that I'll tell is use of keywords like uh, trade of British monopoly over trade, natural rights of men, separation of power, checks and balances. So these are the keywords like Declaration of Independence proclaimed all men are equal. This is a very important keyword associated with American Revolution. So you cannot miss out on these keywords. Similarly, in French Revolution, I have mentioned right to property. I have mentioned about inequalities, liberty, democracy, fraternity, equality, rule of law. These are very important keywords of French Revolution. Any answer on French Revolution is incomplete without these keywords. So make use of keywords. Now see simple diagram that I have drawn. This is just like a hub and spoke diagram. I've written American plus French Revolution, and then these lead to following things like democracy, rule of law, equality, constitution, rationalization of tax system, decreased colonization. You can use these sort of short forms in diagram. I am 100% sure, rather I am 200% sure that coachings will advise you to not use. People will deduct your marks in test series, but do not hold yourself back. I have used them again and again, and I have scored massively in mains every time. So you can use short forms in diagram. This is the last point. I have labeled it as well, and I mentioned what this figure is all about. That is revolutions and modern ideals. So this is the way in which you can draw the diagram. This was the introduction. This is the heading part. I have written points. This is the diagram. This is heading. Again, I have mentioned points. I have already told you about the keywords that I have used. And then in the end, I have just uh, concluded my answer in 2 or 3 lines. Simple approach, that is, does American and French Revolution help in rise of modern economy, society, as well as political structure? Their influence can be felt in every part of modern world even today. Now, this line, that their influence can be felt even today, here I have tried to link it with current scenario of world. I have not written anything particular. I have written a very generic statement, but then I have made an effort to link an entire world history topic with current scenario. So you can use this approach. You should use this approach. So I hope this answer structure was clear in this question. Let us see another question. It will further clear your doubts about answer structure. So this is a question from test series, one of the test series that I wrote. Uh, Indian dancing has changed little with the centuries. Until date, art form is practiced according to Bharatiya Natya Shastra. Now, this is a 12.5 marker question, 200 words. So, I don't think this question has more than one part. It is a simple, straightforward question with one part only, that you have to discuss that Indian dance form is still happening according to Bharata Natya Shastra. So, but then you can make two parts in this question as well. First part would be that yes, the dance forms are practiced as such. The second, and then you will write points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the second part you will say no, that dance forms are not practiced as per what was written or what was told in the Natya Shastra. So write 1, 2, 3. This way, you are basically manufacturing more points. You are manufacturing more dimensions. You are clearly telling the examiner that you are writing both views. So he does not have to search for addressal of the questions, the subparts in your answer. Everything is crystal clear to the examiner. Now, uh, the basics about this answer again. So, in the introduction, you will write about facts related to Natya Shastra. I have already told you that we write like we wrote leaders. Here you will write about founder of Natya Shastra. If I am not wrong, it was Bharat Muni. I have not revised it for a while, so I might be wrong. You can cross check. Uh, it would be good if you can mention the century when this particular thing happened. So this will again tell the examiner about that you are aware of technical know-how related to question, that when did this thing happen, who wrote it, what is Natya Shastra. So this is the introduction. If there was anything related to Natya Shastra in current affairs, write that as news background. Now I mentioned here in slide that this is a single part question, but then you can divide it in two parts as I told you just now. Mention features from Natya Shastra. Why do you have to mention features? Because in question it is written that dance form is still practiced as was told in Natya Shastra. So first you have to list features of Natya Shastra. You cannot simply write that dance form is similar to what was written in Natya Shastra. You have to mention the features 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very clearly. Then you will write the answer body, then we'll draw a diagram and we'll conclude with current forms. We'll link with current forms. So let us see the answer that I wrote for this question. So here you can see that I have given introduction. Bharat Muni's, okay, I was right. It is Natya Shastra is by Bharat Muni. Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra has rules for dance, drama, and music. So while the question mentioned Natya Shastra and dance, I have given examiner something extra in form of the founder, as well as I have mentioned that it not only deals with dance but also drama and music. So every word is important. Focus very carefully. These rules are still followed for dances. Now there are two approaches. As I told that you can write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, listing the features of dance form as per Natya Shastra, and then you can write what happens right now. But then in this answer I used uh, approach, integrated approach. I have mentioned the features like it describes Tandav and Lasya aspects followed by dances like, and then I have mentioned the feature and then I have mentioned that these features are still used in dance forms like Bharatnatyam, Mohiniyattam, etc. Again, I've mentioned the features that it mentioned 108 poses like uh, Hastak Mikha, Ek Charre Lassan, and these are still followed by classical dances. So again, keep note of keywords like Tandav, Lasya, Ek Charre Lasyam, Hastaka Mikha, uh, knee movement of Kathak. I have written examples. Uh, Pung is a keyword. So Alap, Manduk Shabdam, Jal Tarangam, Jugalbandi. So these are all the keywords that you can find in each and every coaching material or book or notes of any person you pick on dance forms. So make use of technical knowledge that is available in your answer writing. If you notice the first 5 points, now this is a mistake in my answer. I'm accepting my mistake here. I have not clearly segregated my answer in different headings. I should have written that, made a heading that uh, here the rules of Natya Shastra are being followed in first 5 points. From here, I have mentioned that no, it is not strictly followed. So there can be two headings. So this is though the rules are followed, but there are minute variations introduced under Hindustani style, leading to formation of various gharanas, example in Kathak. So here I have included not only Kathak, but I have included it in uh, other part, that is the rules are not being followed. Similarly, uh, in dances which were restricted to female, now males are also taking part. So this is another point where the rules are not being followed now. Coming to the end of the answer, I have concluded in one or two lines uh, that hence largely even today various rules mentioned under Natya Shastra are followed. Now again, uh, in this conclusion, you can link with the current scenario. So what all dance forms are used these days? like jazz, etc. I think this is a dance form and not music. I'm not that music kind of person. I'm not aware. So you can write whatever dance forms are available, whatever music forms, and link with that. So give a current touch to your history question. I have already discussed that before. Now also I missed out on diagram in this question. See how plain the answer looks without a diagram. Here is the question again in front of you. I have not drawn diagram. I have not linked with current. I have not made separate headings. The entire question, the entire answer has one linear flow to it. So trust me, examiner will be bored by the end of it. Even though I have tried my best to write answer in points, even though I'm mentioning keywords, I have written a good introduction, but then I myself would give only 3 marks out of 10 on in this question. So you need to make changes like add a current scenario, make separate headings, and then draw a diagram. Diagram for this question is very easy. I don't know why I didn't draw in that test. Uh, you can draw a map, Indian map. I already told you, like north. You can write Kathak. In south you can write Mohiniyattam, you can write Kuchipudi in Andhra Pradesh, and likewise. So here it is Kerala. So you can draw a map of India and depict various dance forms where state-wise, or you can draw a simple hub and spoke diagram. Uh, in the center, write features. As per Natyashastra, features are this, and just write 4 or 5 features here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It is very easy. I don't know why I didn't draw. Or you can draw a flow chart. Write dance forms and then classical or Hindustani according to music style. So this way you can here you can write Kathak, and then here you can write other classical dances like Bharatnatyam, Mohiniyattam, etc. So diagram can be easily drawn even in this question. Coming on to the next question, that is the third question. Swadeshi movement of 1905 not only laid foundation of Gandhian techniques of protest, but also used other innovative methods. Elaborate. 12.5 marks, 200 words. I'll repeat the question. Swadeshi movement. Underline this. 1905. So they have uh, eased out one worry that you do not have to remember the year. Anyway, it is very simple. Uh, not only laid, not only. It is very important keyword. Not only laid foundation of Gandhian techniques. This is another key. Swadeshi movement was one, not only was second, Gandhian techniques used other innovative methods as well. So, how many parts can you identify in this question? There are 2 or 3 parts in this question. 2 parts if you consider only Gandhian techniques and innovative methods as parts. You can also consider Swadeshi movement itself as a part if you do not have more points for Gandhian techniques and other innovative methods. But then it is a very easy question. I am sure that if you have gone through basic books also, even if NCRTs, you must be aware of at least six points on both these parts. So there is no need to dwell in detail about Swadeshi movement. So in intro, we'll mention about Swadeshi movement, leaders, facts, year, it is already given, and the backdrop or the reason why Swadeshi movement took place. So this should take only 2-3 lines. And important point now, as I already told you, link with current. Now, in the backdrop of tussle with China, Swadeshi movement is again on rise. So in the news background, mention this uh, issue. So news background, if recently I have written, so you can mention this issue in Swadeshi movement, link with current affairs wherever possible. So there are two parts I've already told. This is a 12 marker question. You will write two headings, 6 points each, diagram and conclude. So coming to the sample answer, in the intro, I have written about Swadeshi movement 1905. I have given a backdrop why it happened, Bengal partition. It was a movement against a move to Bengal partition and involved techniques that laid foundation of Gandhian responses to British like following are the techniques. So in the question, the first part was not only laid foundation of Gandhian techniques. So you have to mention 5 or 6 points related to Gandhian techniques. So here are 5 points that were used by Gandhiji, and here I have mentioned uh, in where all these techniques were used. For example, in non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, salt satyagrah, etc. Now, this is added technical information or the keywords which I am continuously mentioning, that you have to write keywords in your answer. Now coming to the second part of question, I have clearly mentioned here, I have made separate heading like other techniques were also used or tried to good effect. These are 1, 2, 3. So it is much better written answer than the previous answer. And I have concluded here. So again, identify the mistake that I made in this answer. It is that I didn't draw a diagram. Again, it was very easy to draw diagram, but then back then when I wrote this answer, my mindset was not clear. My mindset was not in favor of drawing diagrams, so I didn't draw. That is why when we were discussing diagram slide, I told you that it is all about training your mind. It is all about mindset. If you train your mind that you will draw diagrams, then you will definitely draw. If you do not have in your mind that you will draw diagram, there is no chance that you will draw it. So it is all mind game. Just tell yourself, just ingrain in yourself that you have to draw diagram, you will draw. Let me tell you one instance here. My friend who is now in IRS. Now he is couple batch senior from me. So what we both had geography optional. What he used to do was that he used to draw this box even before writing the answer. So here is the question. Answer sheet starts from here. He used to draw this box. So his mindset was such that now I have drawn this box. So inside that box, I have to draw diagram in whatever possible way. So you can also try this. This is like enforcing diagram upon yourself. So this will remind you, you won't digress, you won't divert from the answer structure. Once the box is drawn, you have to draw a diagram inside that box. So you can do that as well. Now in this question, it was very easy to draw a hub and spoke diagram where you can write techniques and then just draw a diagram. Or you can draw a map of India and you can depict like NCM took place here using this particular technique, or salt satyagrah took place in Gujarat using this particular technique, or quit India movement used this particular technique. So hub and spoke you can draw, map you can draw, table. So you can mention uh, like other innovative techniques were also used. So here you can mention technique, here you can mention leader. So who used lantern technique, who used journals technique, you can mention the leader name here. So it is all about mindset. If you have in your mind that you will draw diagram, you will definitely draw. Also chronological blocks, like what happened before Swadeshi, what happened during Swadeshi, what happened after Swadeshi. You can draw simple block chronological diagram. Now coming on to the next slide and our last question of this session. Now this is a question which was asked in UPSC. Uh, I have already told you about this question in beginning of session. What policy instruments were deployed to contain the Great Economic Depression? 12.5 marks, 200 words. So for a 200 word question, you generally get 2.5 pages. Now, with the limited knowledge which I had, I only knew about New Deal and nothing else. Imagine the shortfall of information that exists in uh, books and the resources out there. This is a reason which prompted me to write a book on world history. This very reason I'm coming up with this exam oriented, structured, concise, yet comprehensive book on world history. So now how to fill 2.5 pages in a question in which you only know this molehill and you have to make a mountain out of it. So various techniques are: leave more space, write bigger, your font size can increase, draw more diagrams, draw hub spoke diagram, draw table, draw bigger diagram, or use the approach which I told you, that is before, event, and after. So combining these approaches, I repeat, use more space, draw bigger diagrams, write bigger, uh, leave more space, and use this points approach. So this way you can ensure that you are filling 2.5 pages with the limited knowledge that you have. And trust me, I have seen this happening. Often it happens that you score more marks in questions that you don't know well, and you score very less marks in questions that you think you have answered very well. It is a funny thing. It is a funny game, I'll say. Like they say, cricket is a funny game. Anything can happen. Similarly, answer writing is a funny game. Anything can happen. So when you see such questions which you don't know, do not lose hope. First things first, do not lose hope. Tell yourself that this is a tough question, this is a bouncer, but then a six can be hit even on a bouncer. There is no need to duck again and again. So go for this approach. Now coming to the answer structure, define economic depression. Nobody has asked you to do so, but then it is a keyword, and I have already mentioned time and again that in introduction we'll define. Mention facts like it took place after World War I in 1920s and 30s. 1929 it started, lasted till around 1937, but it majorly ended only after World War II. Countries which were majorly affected by economic depression like Europe, firstly it was US, then Europe, and mostly Germany was very affected by depression. And the main leaders associated with economic depression like Roosevelt. Write about New Deal. I have here mentioned, if you don't know anything other than New Deal, use technique told previously. Mention situation before depression, mention about depression and New Deal, and mention effects of New Deal and what happened after Great Economic Depression. This way, you will be able to make at least 6-7 points, not less than 6-7. So, and then you'll draw a diagram and then conclude. So let's look at a model answer of this question from my book. Uh, so here in introduction, I have given basic facts about Great Economic Depression. I have defined it that Great Economic Depression was worldwide economic downturn in industrialized Western world that began in 1929 and lasted until about 1939 and caused following issues. Okay, so here is backdrop of Great Economic Depression. Now I've mentioned about points which you can read. It is theoretical. This is not the agenda of this session that I'll read out these points. Idea is to make you aware of the structure, answer structure. So I have drawn a hub spoke diagram like measures against Great Economic Depression. I've written New Deal here. I have written about social security scheme uh, here. So I have mentioned these in diagram in just one or two words. So you can label the figure. It is up to you if you want to label or not. It is not panacea. It is not necessary, but then it looks good if you have labeled it. And then in the end, just conclude the answer. Here, I'll advise you again to link with current affair. I could have linked it. So you can write about 2007, 2008 economic depression or even the current slowdown because of COVID-19. So this is the end of the session. Uh, this is all I had to mention about GS-1 history answer writing. If you have any doubts regarding this, you can download my notes and my answer copies from my blog, that is muditjanblog.wordpress.com. You can ping me on my Decode Civils group on Telegram, or you can join my YouTube channel and see various exam strategies there. Also, for ethics, you can refer my one-stop solution book, that is Decode Ethics, and uh, Google. By now, when you are watching this video, I think the book might have been already released. So thank you. Have a good day. Happy learning.